Something is happening in this nation, something that cannot be ignored. A warning has come, one that echoes from the past and trembles through the present. It is not the warning of politicians, nor of the media, but a warning of divine proportions. One that calls a nation to attention, one that cannot be silenced. And now, its message touches the story of a man who has risen to power, a man whose path is stirring both hope and fear. The words of this warning are clear, and the consequences are real. Those who hear it are left stunned, questioning what comes next. There is a warning that moves across the land, a warning that pierces the very soul of a nation, a warning that is not of man but of God. It comes not in the subtle whispers of politics, not in the debates of media, nor in the fleeting opinions of public discourse. It comes as a voice from heaven, echoing through time, reaching into the hearts of a people who are often too busy to listen, too distracted to understand, too confident in their own wisdom to perceive the gravity of what is unfolding before them. This warning carries with it a weight that cannot be measured, a weight that cannot be ignored, for it is not merely a caution. It is a declaration, a call to awaken, a call to remember the principles that have guided this nation from its very beginning, from the moment the first settlers set foot upon this soil. The hand of the divine has been present, shaping destinies, raising leaders, and establishing paths that were meant to be walked with reverence and obedience. And yet, throughout history, there have always been moments when the voice of warning has been delivered, moments when the nation has been called to account, moments when the people have been confronted with a choice to heed the message of heaven or to dismiss it and continue in their ways, blind to the consequences that lie ahead. This is such a moment. It is a moment that comes not from political rivalry, not from ideological differences, not from partisan agendas. It comes from a higher source, a source that sees what the human eye cannot, a source that knows the outcome of paths before they are even taken. And it is speaking now in ways both subtle and unmistakable, in ways that those who have eyes to see and ears to hear cannot deny. The warning moves like a shadow over the land, touching every city, every state, every institution. It reaches into the corridors of power, into the chambers where decisions are made, into the lives of those who are called to lead. It reveals that leadership is not merely about policy or popularity, but about the stewardship of a people, the responsibility to uphold truth and justice, the obligation to walk in alignment with the moral and spiritual foundations upon which this nation was established. And when leaders stray, when they forget the weight of their calling, the warning intensifies. It becomes sharper, more urgent, more impossible to ignore. It calls the people to remember, to repent, to turn their hearts toward the higher ways that govern not only earthly success, but eternal destiny. The warning is also deeply personal. It is not simply a general caution to a nation. It is a revelation that reaches into the lives of individuals, into the choices of citizens, into the hearts of those who wield influence and power. It challenges the pride, the ambition, the self-reliance that too often leads the human heart astray. It exposes the hidden compromises, the quiet sins, the unheeded truths that can accumulate and threaten the very fabric of a society. It reminds that no person, no office, no title can stand outside the judgment and guidance of the divine. That all who walk upon this land are accountable. All who make decisions that affect millions are accountable. All who claim the mantle of authority must do so with humility, reverence, and a heart attuned to the voice that has warned from the beginning. Signs accompany the warning. They are not vague. They are not coincidental. They appear in the timing of events, in the sudden shifts of fortune, in the rise and fall of influence, in moments of national crisis that demand reflection and response. The heavens themselves seem to speak using the currents of history, the patterns of leadership, the moral direction of a people to deliver a message that cannot be mistaken by those who are willing to see. The warning calls for attentiveness, for discernment, for courage. It beckons the nation to awaken from a slumber of indifference, to open its eyes to the spiritual realities that shape destiny, to understand that behind the scenes of politics and power, there is a higher hand at work, guiding, judging, warning, and offering the chance to turn back before it is too late. It is a warning that shakes the soul because it carries consequences. It is not merely a caution for debate or discussion. It is a warning that if ignored, the nation risks stumbling into a path of turmoil, division, and judgment. It calls the people to humility, to reflection, to prayer, to a recommitment to principles that transcend ideology, party, or ambition. It reminds that the strength of a nation lies not only in its economy or military, but in its moral and spiritual fidelity, in the collective heart of its people, in the integrity of those who lead. The warning has come, it has arrived, and it will not pass quietly, because the hand of the divine is both patient and persistent, both merciful and just, and it will not let a people ignore the signs of their times. History has a way of speaking to those who are willing to listen, a way of revealing patterns and consequences that stretch far beyond the moment, far beyond the individual, far beyond the politics of the day. It is not merely a record of dates and events. It is a voice that carries warnings, that whispers truths, that demonstrates the inevitable results of choices made in defiance of divine order. Throughout the ages, nations have risen to greatness and fallen into ruins, not because of chance or circumstance alone, but because they ignored the lessons etched into the fabric of time. The past is not silent, it is alive, it is speaking, it is warning, and those who understand history in the light of the divine can see the hand of God moving, the patterns that repeat, the signs that cannot be dismissed. In every era, when a nation has strayed from the principles that sustain righteousness, judgment has followed. And now, as the present unfolds, those who look back and learn are given a choice to heed the lessons of history or to stumble blindly into repeating them. The parallels are unmistakable. The prophets of old warned their people, called kings and leaders to account, cried out in the streets and courts, and yet so often their words fell on deaf ears. The consequences were swift and undeniable. Cities fell, leaders were overthrown, nations were divided, and people who ignored the voice of heaven paid a heavy price. The cycles of prosperity and decline, of blessing and judgment, follow a discernible path. They reveal that a nation's destiny is not random, that its leaders are not simply products of circumstance, and that the choices made at critical moments ripple outward with exponential effect. History does not forget, it does not forgive the defiance of divine principle, and it does not allow a people to ignore the moral laws that govern both earthly and eternal outcomes. There is a pattern in every rise and fall that can be traced, a pattern that exposes the spiritual reality behind political and social events. Leaders emerge in alignment with the moral and spiritual condition of the nation. They are not isolated actors, but reflections of the collective heart. When the nation turns from righteousness, it produces leaders who mirror compromise, who embody division, who test the faithfulness of the people. When the nation pursues justice and honor, it produces leaders who can guide with wisdom, courage, and integrity. History records the results of these choices, showing the blessings that follow obedience and the calamities that follow disobedience. The warning is clear: to ignore history is to invite its harsh lessons to repeat themselves with even greater force. For the divine does not allow nations to evade the principles that govern life. Every moment of triumph in history carries with it the potential for failure. Every era of peace harbors the seeds of disruption. Every success conceals the possibility of judgment if the people forget the source of their strength. And yet, within the pages of history, there is mercy. There is evidence that God always extends a chance to return, always offers a path to realignment with eternal truths. The people can turn, they can repent, they can adjust their course. But they must recognize the patterns. They must understand the signs. And they must act before it is too late. Those who fail to discern the lessons of the past are doomed to live them again. But those who see, who understand, who respond, can alter the trajectory of their nation, can avert disaster, and can align themselves with the providence that guides the unfolding of destinies. History speaks not merely as a chronicle, but as a mirror, reflecting the choices of leaders and the condition of the nation. It exposes the hidden compromises, the quiet sins, the erosion of principle, and the accumulation of unheeded warnings. The rise and fall of nations are not merely political events. They are spiritual realities, and the hand of God can be seen in the patterns, the timing, and the outcomes. The cycles of history demonstrate that a nation is never beyond warning, never beyond hope, but neither is it beyond accountability. Every leader, every citizen, every institution plays a role in the unfolding of destiny, and the lessons of the past are given to illuminate the present, to reveal the consequences of choices, and to call a nation to vigilance, humility, and obedience. As the present unfolds, the echoes of history grow louder. The events of the past are not distant. They are shadows stretching into today, calling attention to the patterns that have repeated through generations. The signs are evident in the political arena, in the moral direction of society, in the spiritual condition of the people. The warning is unmistakable. For history itself cannot be rewritten, but its lessons can be learned, and its truths can guide those who are willing to listen. The nation stands at a critical juncture, and the patterns of history offer both caution and guidance, revealing that the paths of leadership and national destiny are never separated from the divine principles that govern life, justice, and eternity. Leadership is not merely the exercise of authority, it is the reflection of the soul of a nation, the mirror in which the character, values, and destiny of a people are revealed. Every decision made in the halls of power, every word spoken from the seat of authority, every choice enacted by those who lead carries consequences that ripple far beyond the immediate moment. Leadership is more than policy, more than strategy, more than the pursuit of influence. It is a sacred responsibility, a trust granted not by men alone, but by the one who ordains the rise and fall of nations. The leader is the vessel through which a nation's moral and spiritual compass is tested, a person whose actions can either align the nation with blessing or drive it into peril. The weight of this truth is often invisible to the eyes of the people, yet it is no less real, no less profound, and no less capable of shaping the course of history. When a leader embodies wisdom, integrity, and a heart attuned to justice, the nation is lifted, strengthened, and guided along a path of righteousness. But when a leader turns from these principles, when ambition, pride, or compromise dictate the course, the nation feels the tremors. The consequences are not always immediate, but they are inevitable. History bears witness to this. The leaders of ancient Israel, the kings of Judah, the governors of empires, they were more than rulers. They were mirrors of their people, reflections of the collective choices, desires, and faith of those they governed. And when they strayed from God's way, the nation fell with them. When they walked in alignment with divine truth, the nation prospered. The lesson is unmistakable, yet the world is often blind to it, thinking leadership is separate from morality, thinking the success or failure of a nation is based on skill alone, ignoring the spiritual reality that undergirds every decision. Leadership shapes destiny because it defines the moral trajectory of a nation. Every law enacted, every appointment made, every word spoken from the highest office sends ripples through society, influencing the hearts and minds of millions. The leader is not only a person, the leader is a signal, a representation of what the nation values, what it embraces, and what it tolerates. When integrity is honored at the top, it sets the tone for the nation, encouraging righteousness, justice, and mercy to flourish. When corruption, compromise, or moral blindness dominate, they set a course for turmoil, division, and decay. The responsibility of leadership is therefore immense, for it is not merely about the exercise of power, but about stewardship over the very soul of a people. The people themselves are not free from